Praise the sun, I'm giving Soulsborne another chance, and let's get this first journal kicked off with a brand new pledge. I hear Dark Souls 3 has 19 bosses, 6 of which are optional, and so I herefore pledge to kill every boss in Dark Souls 3. There, I said it. Will I live to regret that? Most likely, but you know what? Sometimes you gotta seek out a crazy challenge. I could have said, let's get to the credits, but let's make these pledges exciting and interesting. I'm going to kill all the bosses in Dark Souls 3 because Dark Souls 3 has sold me on it being pretty decent after 2 streams, 8 hours of gameplay. I think the bullshit counter went up once or twice, but so far we're pretty good. And in Dark Souls 1 by the second stream, I was already having a down moment. So there's a lot of good stuff that have been fixed in Dark Souls 3 that really help fix the issues I had in Dark Souls 1, and we're going to talk a lot about that, and then about my progress in Dark Souls 3. The first thing, though, Dark Souls 3 ruined for me is I was totally going into this expecting to be another Chosen Undead, and having to, like, do the thing with the fire again. So I made my guy, knowing he would be probably hollow most of the time, I called him the Chosen Raisin because I thought I'd be funny. And then I realized that you are not the Chosen Undead in this game. You are the Ashen one. And you don't like wrinkle, you just lose your amber, and then when you're good, you're all like flamed up. So that was a twist. The next twist is I learned that, oh, we're not out on a pilgrimage to kill the last Fire Lord and extend the Fire Age. No, we're in some kind of dimension where the Fire Age, is like, it's known that we have to do the fire ritual, and we are not worthy of being kindling, but we know some good old lords that are worth their kindle or two, and so it's our job to go get these lords out of their holes so that they show up and all burn together to extend the Age of Fire. At least I think that's what the story is right now. So I don't know what's going on, but I'm familiar with from Dark Souls 1 to understand what the whole hubbub is about with fire and why it's so important. So in terms of build, you know, I reflected on my Dark Souls 1 experience, and I was like, maybe my play style, like maybe my experience would have been better with a different play style. And because I kind of complained about a lot of things in Dark Souls 1 and I used a strength build, I was like, let's go for something a little bit faster in this one. And so I picked the Mercenary, focusing on dexterity weapons, and you start off with the 2 blades. And I have to say, I love the 2 blades. The speed is awesome. I can like fast roll and I go whoosh whoosh, and then you hit like L1 and you go whoosh, and then like it's the comboing feels really good. Things are dying in like one combo set, which is perfect for me. So I'm really enjoying the Mercenary dual blade, dual sword character. Next is I love hubs. I don't know what it is with me, but video games and hubs, I love it. Like Mario Galaxy has a hub, love it. Mario 64 has a hub, love it. If it has a hub, I love it. I just love this idea of having a central place to focus on and like call your own. And then you go off into the world, you do stuff, and then you bring everything back to your hub. And Dark Souls 3 does that. You're in a hub, and you got your smithy, you got your level up, you got everything you need right there. And then as you go and get things, they kind of show up in your hub. It's like your home, and hopefully nobody here kills people that make your home not feel like your home. Looking at you, Dark Souls 1 Firelink Shrine. So love the idea of a hub. The bonfire and the whole mechanic of leveling up has been overhauled, where now you only level up in the hub by touching this lady's darkness, which I don't think I'm ever going to get tired of that. At first it was creepy, but I'm like, you know what? Level me up. Let me touch your darkness. And so, I mean, it's great because you can actually teleport from the get-go, which is another fantastic thing. And the amount of bonfires, it's like if God had a box of Skittles that was... a box of M&Ms that was bonfires and just poured it all over this game. There's like M&Ms everywhere. That's a really long roundabout way to say there's a lot of bonfires. In fact, I was like, didn't I just light a bonfire and I'm coming across another bonfire? And you know what? I'm happy with that. Bring on the bonfires. No to the runbacks. I love how much bonfire there's. And so like you progress, then you go back to your base, you feel all good, you talk to your peeps, and then you go back and you try to progress. It's got that formula from Dark Souls 1 that I saw the potential in, but it polished it in a way that is more fun and engaging for me. I think, you know, the issues are there, the ones I had in Dark Souls 1, but they are lessened to a point where they are either negligible or I can just deal with it. Like there was one boss, the Vort of the Boreal Valley, the big... What was he? Was he a pig or a boar? or something else. Anyways, that thing, the ice pig, we'll call him the ice pig because I don't remember what he was. You know, his run back, I complained at first. And then I had that aha moment. Something I learned in Dark Souls 1 is that you don't have to kill everything that you come across. Running through things is a legitimate strategy in this game. And so it's all about learning how to run and not get hit in key areas. And now that I'm leaning more into that strategy, it makes everything else manageable. It's like, okay, new area, we go in cautiously, we kill everything, unless we get overwhelmed. If we know the area, okay, we figure out the path, how to get around everything so that we can just explore and just kill the things we need to kill. So all of that is feeling pretty good. The atmosphere is, I think, another thing I complained a lot about Dark Souls 1. It was just depressing. In this one, it's depressing, but it's not as depressing. Like, there is light in the game. Like, you are wandering a world that feels bigger. It feels like there's actually light. It feels like you're in the daytime. You're not just always sulking in the dark. Like, you can still have apocalyptic feel and provide light. And I think that's what I wanted out of Dark Souls 1. And Dark Souls 3 does it. It's still a dark themed game and everything's kind of depressing. But I mean, at least I can see the world and I can see this beautiful artwork and like everything that they designed. So atmosphere, big game changer for me. The fact that flasks are now things that you can find in the environment makes it so much more enticing to explore. And I know some of you will criticize me for that because I don't explore as much as you do. But when I do explore to my liking and I find a flask, super rewarding. The first few flasks, I needed some help from the chat to get me going because I was at 4 flasks and trying to take down a tree by kicking them in the nuts, and it wasn't working. I needed more flasks. So we got 2 with chat's help, and then I got a few more on my own just by exploring things. The combat feels more fluid and more like that I'm in control. The old one I can just describe as slow and clunky. And it's so wild to me that I'm transitioning from Dark Souls to Dark Souls 3 where everything gets smoother and better. And then in my like parallel journey of Monster Hunter, I'm going from World Rise to 3U where everything goes clunky, like we're going in the opposite direction. I'm not far enough into Monster Hunter 3U to say if it's gonna have the same like problems I had with Dark Souls of like just being old and clunky. But yeah, Dark Souls 3 fixes so many of the combat issues. Like I see an enemy attack, I'm like, I can iframe this, I can roll into it, I can whoosh, I can roll out. Like I just feel so much more in control in battles. Which takes us to the bosses. Now I pledged to kill all the bosses in this game, and I've already got 4 of them down, so I've only got 15 more to go. The bosses right away, way less squishy. These things, you can't just face tank them anymore. Like I got to be a little bit more on my toes. I got to observe them. I got to learn the patterns, and I got to learn how to iframe some moves. It feels way more like a dance and a more rewarding experience. Right from the get-go, the first boss you fight, which is like Iudex Gundyr or something, that thing was a tough fight, but it was a good one to read, to learn how to move around him. I think I might have died to him once, or I'm not sure if I died to him or if this is the one that I actually got on my first try. But first boss, super intimidating, but also really fun to kill. The next one killed me a ton of times, this Vord of the Boreal Valley. And, you know, I got caught off guard because he has like a phase 2 when he's at half health. And that one, there was a pretty like, not the best run back, so I had to go, like I died a few times on the run back, and then it was just a matter of learning, okay, how do I position myself, when do I slash, when should I dodge, and there was that learning going on, which I really enjoyed. And then when you put it all together, but yeah, all these bosses have so much HP, like they're really chunky. I'd have to say Vord is probably my least favorite boss out of the 4 that I had so far. The first one was a great first impression. And then we went to the Cursed Rotted Greatwood, which at first I was so confused. I couldn't figure out where his weak points were. And then I saw like in his groin something that was like, you know, his balls were colored differently. I was like, don't tell me I have to go in there. And so I go and hack at his sack and there's blood coming out and just like, oh my God, why would they make you do this? Like I feel the tree's pain. Like he's just sitting back with his like legs across. He can't even stand. And you're just like whacking at his bag, and it's just like, oh my God, at his tree bag, like, ugh. And then that bursts, and I'm just like twitching because I feel the pain. It's like getting kicked between the legs. It's not really cool. I'm all for monsters that have like multi weak points that you have to like hack away at. And this one I did like, except there was a bit of moves I didn't quite like the fact that this big arm comes out from his stomach after a while, and you can like reach around, and there's like I couldn't tell the tell. That I didn't like, but I learned that, you know what, I just focus on getting rid of the front stuff fast, and then I can go behind him, and then I can hack the last sacks in the back, and then we're all good, and he's dead. So yeah, that one was pretty good, and learning to go into the groin really quick so that you can go underground, because when you go underground, it stops spawning all the mobs, making the fight a little bit more manageable. So honestly, I did prefer the Great Wood more than the Boreal Valley dude. Then we continued into a forest. We came across this thing called the Crystal Sage. This is the thing I killed in the first attempt. And, you know, I hacked at it. I was like, okay, what's going on? Okay, it just teleports. Is this all there is to it? And then I realized it has illusions, and you have to look for the purple one, not the blue one. And so once I figured that out, we just focused on that, face tanked it, killed it, moved on. So I think I'm at a point where I'm getting very close to my first Lord dude that I'm supposed to bring back, which I forget what they're called. I don't think they're called lords, but, you know, the one that sits on the throne, I think we're going to set him on fire. I'm like in a cathedral or a monastery. And this part, the mobs have been killing me, which I just got to learn. Like, I keep dying to like surprise attacks and stuff. So I just have to learn what's going on here and then make our way through it. And then I will have my first, I don't know if I fight the Lord or what happens, or if I just talk to him and I'm like, hey, can you come back to the hub so we can burn you? Yeah, I don't know what that's going to be like. So we'll see how it goes. But Dark Souls 3 so far is a lot more comfortable. It's a lot more interesting. And the fact that I did Dark Souls 1 makes me appreciate Dark Souls 3 so much more. I'm happy I did 1. Like, I'll never regret my playthrough of 1. But 3 is just treating me so much better. And yeah, I'm having a good time. So let's hope it doesn't take a step down, and let's hope there's no BS bosses, because I just pledged to kill all of them, and we got 15 left. So looking forward to doing all that. I'll see you on the next Souls Journal, and until next time, keep it classy. Never publicly taunt Dark Souls, because it will come at you fast and make you regret ever calling it a little easy. Welcome back, Classic Crew, to a Dark Souls journal where I journey through Dark Souls 3 and try to kill all 19 bosses in Dark Souls 3, because I made a silly little pledge last time and decided this game was manageable and comfortable. And so, hey, I've killed 2 bosses already, or maybe it was 4. What's killing another 19, whatever the rest, 15 is. And so the game has upped its difficulty. But so if you're into that sort of stuff, anyways, I'm going on tangents here. Be sure to subscribe, follow along. Every week I jot down my thoughts on the last stream as I go through the Dark Souls 3 experience. And now I'm 2 streams further in from the last journal, and I've killed a few more bosses, 3 or 4, and the game decided to get a heck of a lot more difficult. So I've journeyed my way towards the chapel area, which, by the way, I just have to say, so far, including everything I've gone through, the aesthetic of this game continues to be fantastic, beautiful. And even though it is dark and apocalyptic, there's still like enough light, and you can actually admire all of the environmental art design that was done. And so to this day, I still say I'm probably now, 16 hours into Dark Souls 3, and the aesthetics is so much better than Dark Souls 1. I just love the Dark Souls 3 look, even though one of my complaints was Dark Souls 1 was depressing, and I'm still trotting through a bunch of undead trying to kill me in this world that is pretty much ending. It just feels more manageable in Dark Souls 3. It feels less dark. So maybe if you like dark, depressing things, you might like Dark Souls 1 more than 3. So anyways, the chapel where I really started struggling are the mobs. Oh man, there's like just parts where it was really hard to progress. I would get ganked by mobs, and then I'd get 2-3 runbacks to finally kill it, just to get ganked by another mob, and then 2-3 runbacks. And this is from a part where you get a chapel, and then you go run through a graveyard, and you go to rooftops. And the pacing here really just came to a it just really slowed down. Before, the game was dropping bonfires pretty often, and the mobs were manageable. And even after actually this segment of the rooftop, I think it's just called the chapel rooftops, the frequency of bonfires started coming back a lot more frequent, and I haven't had as much trouble with mobs as I am in this section. So I think this is one section where they could have smoothened off the difficulty curve just a little bit, because it took me like an hour or two just to get through these mobs where it's like, oh, you get ganked this way, okay, learn how to fight this. Oh man, I get ganked again. It's like several ganks, one gank after another, so many ganks. While I was being ganked, I kept going back to the hub to do stuff or like check up on stuff. And at one point I came across this pilgrim that I remember like talking to on a bridge, and he disappeared, or she disappeared. I don't know what it is. And it showed up in the hub, and I learned that this thing just gives you free levels. Like what? Dark Souls, you're really starting to ease up on your difficulty here. So after doing a bunch of stuff for it, as in like coming back to it every so often, I think I ended up getting 5 free levels just for talking to it, and then it died. My buddy, who was actually helping me, like, it's so, I've not seen anyone actually help you in this game that is an NPC other than the ones you summon, but this one was actively helping you in a way that it's going to like continue for the rest of the game, and then it dies. I think it like died of old age or something. It's not even a depressing death. It's just like it has served its purpose and it has died. I will miss the pilgrim, which I don't remember the name. So anyways, after I made it through the rooftops, I finally opened these big doors. Can I just say, opening big doors is super satisfying. And cautiously made my way into this hall, which was full of trudge and giants. And these things were scary. I killed one giant. The other one threw poo at me. I didn't like it. And I didn't even try to fight it. I'm like, I will not fight you in your own territory. You are surrounded by like these little goops that are trying to jump on me. You're throwing poo very viciously at me, and I can barely walk. We're going to roll through this part. Thank you. And then I made it past that, only to encounter like all these knights like hanging out for some kind of like Knights Anonymous group. And I ran in there and I thought I could get the jump on them, but no, I got destroyed. These knights had big weapons and they just like pummeled me to the ground, and I instantly regretted my ways. You never try to be the one that ganks in Dark Souls, for you are the one who must only be ganked. Just you and no one else. So getting behind there, actually before we do that, there is a new weapon that I have built that I've been experimenting with called the Hollow Slayer Greatsword, and I don't quite remember how I got it. I think it came from doing a boss thing. So far I've been using my double swords, or my dual blades, and then I got this Hollow Slayer Greatsword, which is like a two-handed sword, which what I really like about it is you can run and then you can do like a sweeping arc, which has been really cool to do, and it became really useful in the next boss fight, which is the Deacons of the Deep, which I thought these were this was one of the Lord of Cinders. Turns out it was not. And I was just like, what is this boss? It's just like a bunch of priests. And I just start like running in there and like slashing across, and it does a lot of damage. I was like, oh, what's going on? Am I just supposed to like call this group? And then I realized that there was like this little red thing that was bobbing around. I'm like, that's probably the thing I have to hit. And it kept like bobbing in the middle of the group. So I'm like, all right, we gotta get rid of the meat shields. Get rid of the meat shields. I'm just going in there hacking away. And that was a fun fight. Like I was enjoying that. And then like the Pope showed up. And he started chanting stuff, and he had a big stick, and then like some bigger dudes showed up, and things were I'm like, oh, something bad's gonna happen. And out of nowhere, our old friend, the Curse, showed up, and I just saw my HP go like chunk chunk, dead. I'm just like, are you serious? Curse is back. And I was about to like rack up the bullshit counter, but then there was a ray of light, and I respawned at the bonfire, which wasn't that far, and I had my full health. I was like, are you serious? Like the berserk, not the berserk, but the curse does not keep your HP halved when you respawn. It just goes away. I don't need no special moss. Oh, this is amazing. And so I ran back to the Deacons, played a little bit more aggressively to seek out the red light, and I just destroyed it. So it took me 2 runs, got the Deacons of the Deep, knocked out one more boss from my pledge, and off we went I think we went through the forest, and then the swamp. I really like the swamp mechanic, which was like we had to find 4 bonfires to light to open the door. It was like a little bit of a puzzle thing, and there was like a very kind of vague way that you were supposed to get through the swamp, which I liked. And I ended up going on a high wall, which felt like a callback to Dark Souls 1. And there was a big dude with a mace who I thought was a boss, but he didn't have a health bar, so I'm not calling him a boss. He was pretty fun to fight. Killed him. Unfortunately, it doesn't count towards the pledge. And then made it my way back. I believe it was into Farron Keep. And I met my first Lord of Cinder, which is the Abyss Watchers. And this thing reminded me a lot of the boss from Dark Souls 1 in the DLC, which I am forgetting his name. I think it was Artorias. There it is, Artorias. Like, it's that humanoid character, and I feel like you are more rewarded for rolling in Dark Souls 3, or maybe it's just because the combat is smoother. So like when he had his big moves, when he was charging at me, I'm like, okay, we roll into this, and then we hack at him. And then I got ganked by his buddies, which made things hard. This whole time I'm playing with the Hollow Slayer Greatsword, and I was banging my head against this wall for like a good hour. It was actually quite difficult to kill the Abyss Watcher. And actually on my second attempt at him, he was one hit away from dying, which made the whole ordeal even worse because I was like, oh, I got a little bit of luck or something with patience. I got like the adrenaline rush and I got greedy. And I was like, oh, let's just try to finish him quick. And I got punched. I got killed. And I never came close to that again until like an hour and a half later of grinding against him, where I finally succeeded. And I succeeded thanks to switching back to my dual blades. So after like an hour of trying to kill him with the greatsword, like it was just getting frustrating, and I kept getting like that hit where they send me up in the air, or then they're just like ganging up on me, or the flame, which has this like endless combo of 5-6 hit combos. So, oh man, that was so frustrating. So I'm like, whatever, like I need more speed. I need to do something. So I brought out my dual blades, went in there. I know it's not called dual blades, but like, come on, we're Monster Hunter people here. I think it's a faster move that lets me interrupt him, because I realized before he could even start his combo business, I'd just be like, no, chop, chop. And yeah, after about 2 attempts, I made it through that boss thanks to my 2 swords. So after that, we got to go into the catacombs. That was pretty comfortable just to kind of explore, kill things. Made my way into the next boss, which was the High Lord Wolnir, which it was kind of like a classic Nintendo boss, which I'm like, okay, we got 2 hands, they're shining. I'm guessing I have to hit the 2 hands, and then like an eyeball's going to open up in the face. Turns out that I had to do was just keep hacking away at the bracelets that were glowy, the big glowy spot. I somehow did not put 2 and 2 together, and I just kept hacking away at the hands. Either way, he fell, and our boss counter went down to, I think we're at 12 now. And then I saw this beautiful view of the Irithyll of the Boreal Valley, which is probably the most beautiful scene I've seen in Dark Souls ever. Like, this thing looked really good, really beautiful. But before we went that way, I was told there was another optional boss back at the rope bridge. You know, you cut it, you go down. And there was. We came across the old Demon King, which is like this big fire guy with a big stomper. I was struggling with him. Made it to about half of his health after quite a few attempts, several attempts, and I could not, like, he goes into like a phase 2 at that point, and I'm just like, oh man, I don't want to be stuck here. I was in the mood to explore. And so I was starting to understand the pattern, especially for phase 1. I could comfortably get him down to like where he powers up and then he has like a huge AoE. I was like, you know what, this boss, I could probably do it and spend more time, but I could do it even faster if I have more vitality, because there's just a few things I was just not so good at dodging. But otherwise, yeah, we'll come back to this boss. So I saw him. I'm like, I'm going to come back for you. And back to the Boreal Valley we went, where I got destroyed by these knights. I think I was still using the 2 swords. And these, like, the knights of that city are serious business. Man, they were just punishing me. So I switched back to a greatsword again, but this time I forged the Farron greatsword, which is, chat tells me it's like the dexterity weapon to use in this game. And I really love how like it jumps and you're like sliding on the ground, you're like whoosh, 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 and you're just like Beyblading everywhere. So that has been saving me so much because it interrupts and gets me around people. It has been both saving me and a curse, because when I panic and I don't know what to do, I'm just like, Beyblade time. And then I just like, and sometimes I win and sometimes I die. It's a little bit of a roll of the dice. So it's not making me as cautious of like methodically fighting things. But it's all right. Like, I'm bouncing between weapons depending on the scenario, which is something I didn't do in Dark Souls 1. So from here, I mostly explored. I made my way to a prison, which I was told is not where I should be. But I was like, oh, whatever, chat. I want to see the prison. I'm exploring. I'm playing this how I want. And I met these terrible brand girls who, like, they stare at you and your health just disappears, and then they brand you, and I got like branded to death. I'm just like, oh, I don't like this. and I kept exploring the prison, and I found a mimic, and I was still in the mindset that I could kill mimics in like 2 hits like in Dark Souls 1. And so I Beybladed onto this mimic, and he had the weirdest hitbox where he like grabbed me across the room and munched on me, and I'm just like, bullshit to the 100. I'm done. And that's where I ended. So I don't know if I'm going to go back into the prison, which is just depression in there, or if I'm going to go back to the valley and keep descending to wherever I was going. Like, there's a lot of areas I can kind of go at this point. And I like having options. There are 12 bosses left to hunt down, one of which I know who it is. So technically there's 11 bosses left for me to discover. It looks like this game's going to be harder than I anticipated when I made my pledge. But hey, that's kind of the point of pledges. It's all about putting a challenge out there that we don't quite know what it's going to be like. So yeah, hopefully I can get through those last 12 bosses and not paint myself in a corner of pain. So I'll see you on the next journal as I descend further into madness and depression in this game. So until next time, classy crew, keep it classy. So there I was, adventuring and questing through Dark Souls 3, when all of a sudden I met a Pope and he just pummeled me right into the ground and hurt me so much. Praise the fireball, and welcome back, classy crew, to another Dark Souls journal where I go through Dark Souls 3 and attempt to kill all the bosses of the base game. We're not talking about DLC, so that is 19 bosses. 10 remain at this point in time, so I am almost halfway through my pledge. And what a productive night the last stream was after leaving the dungeon. So last time I had 2 ways to go. I could have went up through the Boreal Valley, whatever that town is called, or I could have went through a dungeon, which is where I was. I was in the dungeon, I died to a mimic, and I was like, that's enough. That's enough. I'm done here. So I figured, let's go see what's in the other direction. And I had a lot more, it was a lot more enjoyable to go through the upper parts of the Boreal area, because my mindset has changed too. Before I would see rooms with enemies and I always thought, well, now I have to kill everything. I don't know why, but I'd say the last like 40 hours of playing Dark Souls, Dark Souls 1 and 3, I've always told myself I have to kill whatever I see. And finally, I mean, I think this game has been trying to teach me this lesson time and time again, but it finally clicked where I'm like, if I don't need to kill it, I'm not going to kill it. And so my mindset has changed so much that, sure, I will usually fight a new enemy to get a sense of, is it easy to kill or is it easier to run by? And then once I have categorized it, I will either proceed to kill it if I want to explore the area, or if I want to get to my next goal, I will proceed to run past it. And so I'll be sharing a lot more instances of choosing to kill things, choosing to run by things, and it has made my whole experience that much better, specifically in the exploration part and getting around between bosses. So while I was exploring, I have to say, this has been the best comedic timing I've ever seen in Dark Souls, just Dark Souls, the general franchise. I walk into a room, and across the room, there is a dark knight. I think it's a dark knight. Maybe it's a black knight. I don't know. You see the back of it. He's looking at a painting and he's just standing there. He's not patrolling. He's standing there. And the game is basically inviting you to backstab him. And I'm like, that's bait. I know what's going on here. So I'm looking around. I can't quite figure it out. There's even signs on the ground that says there are 2 of them. And I was like, what are they talking about? So anyways, I'm like, well, the best way to know what a trap is to spring the trap. And so I walk up very slowly and I'm about to backstab him. And then bam, I get backstabbed by an archer that was on the 2nd floor waiting. And I was like, that would usually be a bullshit moment. But the fact that this archer could have shot me before I approached the knight, but only was programmed or chose to shoot me when I was right within backstabbing distance, like that timing, I can appreciate what they did there. And I was like, that is a good trap. That is very well done. That is clever. Props to you. Please don't ever do that again. So the rest of it was pretty much exploring the upper area, trying to make my way to eventually the next boss, which would be the Pontiff Sullivan. So exploring, unlocking shortcuts. Yes. I'm walking around with my Farron Greatsword, which I have finally upgraded. So I found the white door. And I was like, all right, there's a boss here. So let's see, let's make sure we're ready for the boss. So I went back to base. I leveled up. So at this point, I'm at level 48, which I think is an important thing to share with all of you. My level, something I've never done. And then I was missing one scale to upgrade my Farron sword to, I think, level 2. And chat helped me. They said, oh yeah, if you go back to the cemetery, there's one of those like shiny dragon things that you can go fight. So we did that. And that monster specifically feels like a Monster Hunter monster. It even rolls like a Raudabon. It was just a good fight. Like, I enjoyed going in, slash, get back. It felt like an easy Monster Hunter fight. So we got our scale, upgraded my Farron Greatsword. So now that enemies that would take 3 hits die in 2 hits, which I'm like, okay, we're getting to the point where these things are getting a little bit less intense. These mobs are a little bit easier to clear, which is good. The knights are still a big pain, like the Silver Knight. So if they're blocking my way, I will kill them, but otherwise I will try to run through them. And so this whole part was pretty enjoyable, just exploring, oh, that's a mob, let's go around, let's see if we can sneak through, this guy will kill, and unlocking shortcuts, and it was a very fun process. And so I'm like, all right, I'm ready, let's go see what's through this door. And my confidence was beaming. It wasn't overconfidence, I'm just like, I feel good about this game. And of course, that's when the game is like, oh, you feel good? Bam, sit down. This thing destroyed me. So Pontiff Sullivan, I was like the first thing I noticed is he walks very confidently. So I'm like, okay, he's got a reason to have that walk. And he's walking, I'm like trying to assess him. And then all of a sudden he's like instant transmission sword, like thrust. And I'm like, that caught me off guard. He was way further than I thought. Like, he was moving so smooth and slow. I didn't think he would just like propel himself through the room to thrust me. So he did that. He's got 2 swords. He's got like a fire sword and a blue sword that looks like Sting from Lord of the Rings. And he's got combos for days. So I'm trying my Abyss Watcher strategy of like, all right, let's stand back. Let's see what he's doing. No, you can't. Like, if you stand back, he just teleports to you, and then you roll away. He's like whoosh, 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 and you roll 5 times. He's still whooshing transport. He's in your face all the time. And I was like, oh my God, how am I gonna, like, this literally felt like a wall I could not even see. It just went into the clouds. I couldn't even see where it ends. And I was like, how am I gonna get good enough to get through this? It felt absolutely impossible. Like, he moves too fast and he just won't stop with the combos. Like, even if I dodge one, he'll get me with the other 2 to 3. And so I noticed that when I'm struggling with like a speed issue, so this was a speed issue, it's usually because I can't maneuver with the great sword. So I'm still with the Farron great sword. I can't maneuver as well. I'm not sure if this is the point where I switched, but at one point in this fight, I switched back to my mercenary blades, or the cell swords. I'm not sure, the dual blades, because that's what got me through the Abyss Watchers. It's when I finally switched to those, because it gives me a little bit more speed to go like cha-cha. So I went back in there, and just naturally I stuck a bit closer and was rolling, and chat's like, that's the strategy, you got to stay close to him. And I realized, okay, when you're close to him, he doesn't combo as much, he doesn't teleport because you're right up in his face, and when he does his wind up, you can easily roll through it, get behind him, and swoosh, swoosh, and then he turns around and tries to get you. You roll through that, swoosh, swoosh, and I was like, there it is. The wall is shortening, the wall is smaller. I can do this. This is manageable. And then we get to phase 2, because there's always a phase 2, and he summons a stand, basically, like a JoJo reference. Yeah, he's summoning a stand version of himself. By the way, if you haven't checked out my JoJo Journey journal, you should definitely check that out. Still watching part 4. It's a tough one. We're going to talk about that in another video. So he summons another version of himself, and now they're just wailing on me. And I think like it was the shock of just, oh no, it's gonna get harder, and then they're just pounding me more. And again, the wall just went right back through the clouds, and I'm like, how? There's no way I can beat this. There's just no way. Like, the strategy I just figured out has just gone out the window, because now there's 2 of them that I have to manage. I'm like, how am I gonna do it? So I go back, I'm like, okay, I saw that the ghost thing, the stand, has a life bar, so maybe I can just focus on killing this guy, and then I can get back to my original strategy. So I go and I'm like, all right, let's do this. So I start focusing on the ghost dude. But by doing that, I create distance with the original guy, which gets me back to the original problem of he's just going to combo me to death because I'm far away from him. And I'm like, oh, this ain't going to work. And I was just overwhelmed with like, oh, this is going to take me like 5 streams to get through. This is going to be one of those walls that I won't be able to get through because this game's so hard. And I went at it again, and I honestly believe that I mostly did this through luck. I don't even know what happened. I'm just gonna be aggressive. When he summons a stand, I'm just gonna like kill him before he kills me. And I just stuck to my strategy. I stuck to him and I was like, swoosh, swoosh. But I was watching more of the other guy and I was trying to dodge and just avoid the other guy and just keep swoosh, swoosh and dodging his attack. And I don't know how I did it. I won't say it's skill. I'm going to say it's mostly luck, but I killed him. On my second or third attempt with the stand, I got through him. And I can't even say I'm proud of that because I don't feel like I earned it. And I don't want to go back to try again because I'm just like, I beat it. Oh my God. And I got my adrenaline rush. So one of the complaints I had in Dark Souls 1 was these bosses don't give me adrenaline rush. I just feel like, oh, it's finally over, which I still feel, but I'm getting my adrenaline rush. The Abyss Watchers, adrenaline rush. The Pontiff Sullivan, adrenaline rush. So I am getting that hit that I was missing from Dark Souls 1, but man, these things are tough. So I get through that. And now I got a whole other area to explore. And again, this is where like I enter a courtyard and there's just a bunch of giants sleeping. I'm like, well, I'm not going to kill these things. Like, this is where I'm learning. Just run through. So I run through this whole area. And of course, there's like fireballs being launched like in the giant area. I'm like, there's the trap. And I'm just like, nope, just going to keep running. And then there's guards coming out at me and people call them like the Jon Snows. They're coming at me. I was like, I don't want to fight that. They got like glowy sticks. I'm like, that's probably like death on a stick. And so I'm running and getting making progress through running, and every time I run I enter another area with more things like black knights with archers and black knights with swords, and I just keep running from one mob to another. You know that scene in Star Wars A New Hope when Han Solo's running away from the stormtroopers just to run into more stormtroopers? That was me, but like 8 times. And then finally I run into another area where I think I'm safe, and then on the screen it's like, somebody has invaded you. And I was like, oh, come on. So a player comes in, and then I'm just running away. He can run faster than me. He's like punching me and stuff. So I'm like, all right, we just got to make a stand. Like, this is where we got to kill him. So I'm whittling him down. He keeps like Estusing. I'm Estusing. And then I was like, forget it. Like, this is just a battle of attrition. I didn't know that when you invade, they have less Estus than you. So I think they had run out of Estus at this point. I didn't know. Chat told me this after. So I decided to run. And by running, I eventually ran out of places to run. But I did unlock some shortcuts through the running in panic moment, and then I died. But at least I opened the shortcut, so I went back. I wasn't ambered, so now I couldn't be invaded. And I finally explored a little bit until I made it to this twisty tower. And I was like, oh, we're at the top of the valley. This looks beautiful. This like thing is very impressive. And I like start walking towards it. And then the text appears and it's just like, Anne Orlando. And I was so confused. I'm like, what? Why are we here? Why? How is Dark Souls 1 in my Dark Souls 3 now? And what? Just what? So I was completely going, I'm like, oh no, are we doing this part again? And so I go up, and now that I know Anne Orlando's, I'm like, oh, I'm going to gun it towards my giant. So I go there, he's dead. So I was like, oh, that's depressing. There's a lot less monsters than Dark Souls 1. So I'm like, all right, that's okay. And it was really cool to like revisit an area that I knew. So I was like, oh, this hall's all done. And we made it to the white wall. So I was like, all right, here's a boss. And then I go in and I meet Aldrich, the Devourer of Gods, which I didn't even realize was one of the Fire Lords that were hunting. I actually thought Pontiff Sullivan was a Fire Lord. Like, I actually went back to my Firelink Shrine. I was like, all right, where do we put this Sullivan's ashes? And I was like, oh, there's no chair for him. What the heck? Like, he felt like he deserved to be a Fire Lord dude. I forgot what they're called. Lord of Amber or Lord of Ash? Fire? Lord of Fire, maybe? I don't know. So I go back to Aldrich, and I learn eventually Aldrich is the Fire Lord I was looking for. And like just before going into that, I was like, oh no, this is where I fought Smoo and what's his face? Oh my goodness, did I actually forget what that other guy? The Dragoon? Smoo's friend? I forgot his name. I just wiped that out of my memory. And Smoo, well, he smooed me so much, I couldn't forget him. So anyways, we're in that room. I was like, oh boy, what waits for me in here once again? Like, we're back here. I'm just getting like PTSD of this segment. And at first, this one actually never made me feel discouraged. I'm just like, okay, I don't know the attack. I eventually learned it has an AoE. So I learned, okay, you go in, boop, boop, go back, go in, teleports, and it's all about that. Then I eventually learned about the arrows. I was like, oh, you got to get behind. It was such a good boss to... The mechanics were you know, this felt like a fair boss where I'm like, okay, that's the mechanic, that's the exploit. I can put it together. This one I stuck to the Farron Greatsword because speed wasn't an issue as much. I just wanted to do a lot of damage when I got my opening. So this one was actually quite good. I died a few times just because I was learning. And then eventually, of course, phase 2, so everything got more intense. And I just kept at it, and I killed it. And I was very kind of shocked and disappointed to learn that I was a Fire Lord, because I think Pontiff Sullivan had way more of an impact as a boss and was way more difficult than Aldrich the Devourer of Gods. So Aldrich was super underwhelming as a boss, and I don't know how they made a boss like that after specifically Pontiff Sullivan and even the Abyss Watchers. Like, I think those two bosses were way more iconic than this one. So anyways, we got Aldrich. So now that's 2 out of 4 down of these things that we're trying to get. And then I got enough souls to buy the key to the Derelict Tower back at my Firelink Shrine. And this segment was fun. I really enjoy opening up new parts of a hub in any video game and like exploring new parts of the hub. So this one, I got all the way up, got my Estus ring, got the Firekeeper soul, which I don't really know what it does. I gave it to the Firekeeper, and she's like, great, now we can you can pay me like a ridiculous amount of souls so that I can remove the darkness out of you. I'm like, come on, we've been touching each other's darkness all game, and now you want to remove mine? And that's very expensive. Like, I don't see the value in this. So it was just cool though. I got locked in by some dude, a merchant, and he's like, haha, I'm gonna steal all your stuff. And then finally I was like, all right, now we're all souped up. Let's go back to the dungeon where we left off last time. This time level 55. So I've leveled up now 7 times. I've also leveled up my weapons a little bit. So I'm like, all right, we can go in here. And I also have my new mindset where like the branding ladies that just kill your health, if they're within reach, I kill them. And if there's a bunch of them, I run past them. So I was balancing more the kill this, run past this, explore part of the dungeon, and it was a lot more smooth. I was in there with my mercenary blade, so the mimic, I could kill mimics like so easily with my dual blades, because I'm just like do 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 do, roll, do do, roll, swoosh, swoosh, roll. It was just good. And so I made it all the way through the dungeon pretty smoothly with a little bit of trial and error. And I made it to, surprisingly quickly, to my 3rd Firekeeper dude, which I really got to learn what the term of these lords are. The Lord of Cinder, that's what they are. Pretty sure that's what they are. So I met my 3rd Lord of Cinder, which is Yorm the Giant. And upon seeing him, I was like, I love giants. I love big bosses. Bring this one on. And so he's big and he's smashing everything, and I'm rolling. I'm like hacking away at him, and like the amount of health I am taking off this giant is so minuscule. I was like, there is no way that this game expects me to use these weapons to kill this giant. Like, that just, after a minute or two of bashing this thing, I was like, there's a hack here. I know there's a hack. We just got to figure out what it is. So I looked at the throne and I saw a shiny, and I barely registered what I picked up, and I haven't looked. So I went back to my stream and I was like, what was that shiny thing I picked up? So it's something called the Storm Ruler, which I don't know what it is. Like, I literally grabbed it and then I had to get out of the way because Yorm was coming. So the next time I start the stream, I'm going to check out what the Storm Ruler is, because I think that could be key to fighting this, whatever it is. And then, so he kept like the pressure on me. I was like, all right, what do I do? So the pillars seemed to be a key because he was smashing the pillars. So I was like, all right, let's just destroy all the pillars. Maybe something's going to fall on him and a weakness is going to open. No, nothing happened. So the next thing I thought of was, well, there are stairs leading up to the throne. Maybe like I have to, so I'm only attacking his ankles. So I was thinking maybe at the stairs, it creates an opening that can hit his head or something. And I think it did to a certain degree. And I think it was doing more damage, but it is not reasonable to expect me to fight that because it's not doing that much more damage and it's not working. So I'm not sure yet. I have not figured out the gimmick to killing this thing. I know there has to be one. My bet is on whatever the Storm Ruler is. Literally don't even know what it is. I don't know if it's an item or a weapon. So we're going to investigate what this thing is next time. And I'm sure that the 3rd Lord of Cinder is going to be dying next week, which is pretty exciting. And by next week, I mean the day this video releases. And then that'll leave me with one more boss. And so after this one, there's 9 left. I know that there's that demon thing on fire. So there are 8 bosses that I don't know about, that I don't know what they are. And then one of them is the final Lord of Cinder. So I'm getting there. I'm progressing way more comfortably in this game than in Dark Souls 1. A lot of the lessons I learned in Dark Souls 1 have carried over here, and it's really cool to have gone, like, to see key pieces from Dark Souls 1, like Anne Orlando make an appearance again and be in a different state than it was in Dark Souls 1. So that's kind of like nostalgic for me, even if it's only a few months old. So good progress, feeling better, feeling like I'm understanding the game more. Bosses are terrifying, making my way through them, and looking forward to seeing what the other ones are. I really hope the next 9 are not Pontiff Sullivan grade bosses, because those things are just overwhelming with dread and like, how do you fight this thing? So looking forward to what the next few bosses have to offer me. If you want to join me, I stream every Tuesday on Twitch as I progress through Dark Souls 3. So let's see if we can... I doubt I can wrap it up before the end of the year, but let's see what we can do. Otherwise, I'll see you on the next stream or on the next journal. Until next time, classy crew, keep it classy. I think I finally cracked the code to get good. It just means hugging people. Welcome back, classy crew, to another Dark Souls journal when we are getting close to the end, I think. This past week was one of my most productive Dark Souls streams ever. I killed 5 bosses, and considering we had 10 left last time, that's half the bosses off the roster. I feel so accomplished. I discovered so many areas. I plowed through so many bosses. It just feels like maybe things are clicking, maybe the bosses are easier, but I want to go with things are clicking. I shared last week how I understood that you don't have to fight everything you see. And while I knew that, there's a difference between knowing and understanding. And I feel I understand what I need to fight. And there was one thing missing in the bosses, specifically I think for Dark Souls 3. I was spending too much time being afraid of them and watching to try to learn their moves so then I could exploit. When really what you need to do is you need to hug these bosses, stay as close as you can to them, and that's when you got to study them and exploit them, because the bosses move and act differently if you are close to them, a little bit further away from them, and far away from them. So if you're studying them from here and then you're trying to implement strategies for fighting them here, it doesn't work. And that is very interesting, because that is not at all how Monster Hunter works, I think. Maybe it does to some degree, but Dark Souls is very different. So with that in mind, let me share with you my amazing Dark Souls journey adventure from last week. So I left off with Yorm the Giant, and I was like, there's got to be something, a gimmick, because I just was not making any progress on this health bar. So I took a look at what the shiny is that I grabbed near his throne to find out it was a sword called the Storm Ruler. So I pulled that out before going in, and I tried a few things to see, like, what does this thing do that's so special? I think it mentioned something about wind in the description. And through holding a button, I learned that you can charge this wind around it, and it makes like this really loud noise. And I was like, oh, this is so cool. And then someone in the chat gave me a little tip that, oh, if you hit, I think R1 and R2 or a combination of buttons, you can actually throw the wind, which is even more cool. Like, that is one of the coolest sword gimmicks I have seen in a Dark Souls game. So with that, I went to see Yorm, and I threw some wind at him, and it's like... So it took me one try with the Storm Ruler, and Yorm the Giant went down. I have really nothing more to say about him, so one boss down. After that, I was very surprised to get a cutscene, and we got teleported, and I was like, oh, what's going on? Are they throwing me right to the next boss? I was so confused, and I have to say, as a criticism to this game, this part was weird, because at no point does the game do this, but now it does, because I've killed 3 of the Lord of Cinders, and now it teleports me somewhere. I only learned later that it was a place I was at before. I thought it was a completely new place. I didn't recognize the old lady, because all the old ladies look the same in this game. And she gives me like a bowl, and she talks about Prince Lothric. And I don't know if I'm supposed to know who Prince Lothric is or why he's important. Maybe they did in the beginning, but that was like 2 months ago that I did that part. I don't remember anything. I do know that I'm in Lothric Castle, so I assume the prince is important. But am I trying to save him? Am I trying to kill him? I'm not quite sure what's going on. This is like the first kind of cutscene I've gotten in quite a few hours of playing this game. So I put the dish where there is clearly a knight beheading himself. I'm like, okay, this goes here. That was a mistake, because that started the next fight, which is the Dancer of the Boreal Valley. I was not ready for that fight. I should have bonfired, got all my souls, cashed in for levels, and done all that. I did not think the game would throw another boss at me that quick. And I don't understand the logic of, oh, you just killed Yorm, or I don't know if this triggers after you kill 3 Lords of Cinder, but yeah, getting thrown into another boss right after, that caught me off guard. So I had to go back in, get my soul's bone out of there, and then give it another go. The Dancer of the Boreal Valley was the hardest fight I've had that night, and I have to say this is the fight that really taught me something. I was trying for an hour and I kept getting destroyed, and I just couldn't get past its half-life point. So it wasn't an issue with it was an issue with me. It was an issue I couldn't block it once we got to the second phase because it would like twirly. So no matter what equipment I used, I stuck with the dual swords, and I just couldn't get it past its half health until someone from the chat said, stick close to it, just stick close to it, get on its butt. And so I was like, all right, well, what do I have to lose? I've been trying for an hour. I'm not making progress. Let's just stick to this thing. And so I was running behind it, and I'm just like, keep that butt framed in front of me. Just, you gotta see butt / roll butt / roll butt, and you gotta keep that butt in front of you. And I did that, and it was doing less of the annoying, like really big moves. And it was only doing like 1 or 2 slashes, which I would roll through, get back in the butt, and then //. And I think it was on that attempt, my first attempt at sticking close to it, I actually killed it. And so I was like, all right, well, this is a strategy I used on the Sullivan. So maybe that's the gimmick I gotta learn in this game, is just stick close and hack away. So with that, we went into Lothric Castle. I explored the whole castle. This was kind of a nice change of pace because now I had been on a boss for an hour. So to be able to explore like a medieval derelict castle with a bunch of mobs was perfect. Like it was a good balance at this point. And then I made it to a point where there's 2 dragons, and I was like, all right, there's got to be a gimmick. How do we get through the 2 dragons that are putting everything on fire? So the first thing I try is the most simple thing anybody would try, is you try to run through the bridge to see, okay, how are they going to kill me? First, I need to understand, like, clearly the game is going to kill me by going on the bridge, but I need to understand how it's going to kill me. So I run, and I'm like, maybe I can reach the gate. The gate I reached, but everything was on fire, and surprisingly, the dragons didn't kill me directly. It's the fire from the dragons that killed me with a slow death, which was unexpected because I was expecting to die a lot faster. So after that, I started looking around, and I noticed, oh, when I'm on the bridge, I can see that there's like paths on the bottom and shinies. The shinies always guide you. So I got down there, fought some mobs, found my way around until you finally can actually kill like this parasite that's on the dragon's like claw or something that puts the dragon down. Love that gimmick. I love being able to take down like those dragons just by killing the parasite. Really love that. Loved exploring the castle, finding the mobs, looking for shinies. It just felt like a very comfortable difficulty. Now at this point, I knew that I was heading towards, so I opened the gate, I got the dragons, opened the gate, made it up, saw a white wall, so I'm like, all right, it's boss time. Let's make sure we're all good. And the chat was telling me about this sharpened stone, which can really make my sword shine. So before going into that white wall, I went back, found a gem that like sharpens or something. So we sharpened the swords. We got as many Titanite chunks. Oh, I was picking up a bunch of Titanite chunks. So I was able to level up my swords. I think we're at level 8 now, 8 or 9, and they're sharpened. So I've got some pretty good swords now. And I went into this fight, which is the Dragon Slayer armor. And this is the kind of fight I like. It's like a big, chunky knight who just like you mess with him and he just destroys you. So I got into him once, got him to half health, died, and I was like, you know what? Let's go try something else, because I knew that there was still the old Demon King waiting for me. I think that's where I went. But for sake of storytelling, we're gonna stick to the Dragon Slayer armor. I went back the second time. I got him on 2 tries, and it's thanks to, once again, sticking close to him that helped me. So I learned that he had these big swings, the big bash, and it was all about being patient and dodge, dodge, smack. Dodge, dodge, smack. And it's just keeping that rhythm. And then sometimes if you screw up a little bit, you gotta back up, heal, get back in, dodge, dodge, smack. And it was such a nice, comfortable dance, and I will use the word dance with this thing because it felt nice. It felt comfortable. He was threatening, he hit hard, and I was just dodging my way, slashing a little bit, backing off, and it just came together nice, and he died. And it was great. And then after that, I went to the Grand Archives, but I did not explore the Grand Archives because I wanted to see a little bit of the optional stuff, because people were telling me in the chat, now is the time to go kill all your optional bosses. So I'm guessing I'm close to the end of the game by being at the Grand Archives. So zoom back to the demon area, and I went back to the old Demon King who gave me trouble a few weeks ago. I mean, I was so much more buff this time. I actually went in and I killed him on the first go because I was just doing so much more damage. I was so much smarter in how to play. I knew about his attack moves, his AoE, and I said last time I was getting comfortable with his moveset. I just needed to deal more damage to get it done faster. That's what happened this time. So I cleared that up and I explored the ruins a little bit. There was a lot of nasty stuff down there. There was things throwing fire at me. There were rats. I fell in a hole again with basilisks, and thank God this game is more forgiving. Not like Dark Souls 1 where you are screwed and you have to go find 6,000 souls to buy some moss to get rid of your basilisk curse. So explored, tried to find a flask thing. I don't think I ended up finding it. I did, however, find the Knight Slayer Tsorig, who I guess is a callback to another character in Dark Souls 1, the Iron Knight. So he killed me, but then I went back and killed him too. Overall, it went down pretty cozy. That place was not comfortable to explore. I will say that. I did not like it. There was a lot of mobs with a lot of range stuff, and it was just nasty in there. And then there's lava and there's poison. It was gross. I did find the big mechanism that shoots the arrows before the old Demon King. So I deactivated that, so now we have peace in the demon land, which is great. After that, from Lothric Castle, there was another path I could take instead of going up. So I went that way, which took me to the Consumed King's Garden. And this place too was another one of those. I fell into it, I panicked, and I tried to run out of it because there was a big knight chasing me. I was like, elevator. So I ran to the elevator. I'm like, now I'm safe as I go down the elevator. And then boom, the knight falls right next to me. I was like, please don't join me. Please don't join me. Oh no, he joined me. So I just start hacking at him. And then I jumped off the elevator, but it was low enough I didn't die. And then I landed in poison. I'm in a poison swamp again. And I'm just rolling and running and things are coming at me. And I'm just trying to get where am I? Where's the safe place? And what's attacking me? Somehow I survived. Managed to heal up. Continued through this place. It's a nasty place. I didn't want to explore this place. If the land is poison, I don't want to touch it. I don't want to explore it. So I came across another white wall, and there we met Osiris, the Consumed King, which was a really strange boss because this one, it had a cutscene where it talked to me. You don't get that in bosses usually. There was a baby crying throughout the fight. It was just a strange fight, and I assume there's a lot of plot around this character, but I have no context for any of it. So anyways, I think I did the hugger again. I just went close. I'm like, show me that butt, / and he died on a first attempt, which I'm pretty proud of, that I have been killing bosses so comfortably after that dancer. That hold close is really working well. So Osiris died, and that opened up, I got access to an emote called Path of the Dragon, and I recognized it right away. I was like, oh, that's the emote I need in the dungeon, because in the dungeon there were all these people sitting and there was something missing. There was a spot for me to sit and do that emote. So I'm like, all right, let's go back there. So I went and I teleported to the wrong place in the dungeon, ended up falling in another creepy place. There were poison things. There were lots of spidery things holding me. There were hairy hands grabbing me. It was so unpleasant, not a nice experience. So I went back to the bonfire because I got completely lost in that area, teleported to the entrance of the dungeon, and then made my way back to that place. Path of the Dragon, which teleported me to the most beautiful place I have seen in Dark Souls because there is a blue sky above me. And this is called the Arc Dragon Peak. So I made it to the gates of Arc Dragon Peak, and I have left that for the next stream to explore. So I have Arc Dragon Peak to explore. I've got the Grand Archives to explore, and I have 5 bosses left to do, 3 of which are optional from what I understand. Now, if the bosses keep on being as comfortable as they have been in the last stream, I will definitely do the DLC. If the next 5 bosses are horrendous to fight and just scar me, I will move on to another game. But we'll see. I'm still on the fence of I could take more of this, but I'm also can I take more of this? Either way, I think the last stream was probably the most fun I've had with Dark Souls 3 so far, which is great considering how far I am into the game. And it's also probably have to do with, my own playstyle, my weapons, just I think everything clicking into place. So lots of progress. Really looking forward to seeing how far I get on the next stream. Maybe I'll beat it and complete the pledge. I think that's a long shot, but a guy can hope, right? So I'll see you on the next stream, and until next time, keep it classy. So well, I've just been flying through bosses, having a good time, and then Welcome back, Classy Crew, to another Dark Souls 3 journal. As I get close to the end of my pledge, there are only 2 bosses that remain, and it is time to talk about the DLC, and as well as about the Nameless King. So let me take you on a journey of the last stream, which continued the previous stream where I slayed 5 bosses, and now I killed another 3, and saw the last 2. So I've seen every boss in Dark Souls 3's base game, and I can now share whether I am ready or not to go through the DLC. But first, let me take you through the adventure last time. So when I last left off, I made it to Archdragon Peak, where I got kind of pummeled, but it was exciting because there was still so much of the game. I could have went to the Grand Archives, I could have went and explored the peak, and I think there was another area I could have explored. But I figured, let's stick to the Archdragon Peak. I hadn't quite made it into the keep yet. So I did that, and I was greeted by a beautiful, massive wyvern, and I was like, we're into Monster Hunter again. As I took like 3 swings on this thing's legs, and when I saw the health bar not move practically, I was like, this is a gimmick fight. All right, where's my storm ruler or whatever it's called to like knock this one out? So there's this big bell right behind it. I was like, all right, it's got to be the bell. So I go there, I smack the bell, nothing happens. He toasts the whole area. I was like, okay, that's not it. So I keep trying to explore the area. I found a bunch of goodies on one side. On the other side, I found a path with mobs that were like ganking me, and I had to kind of avoid them. And eventually I learned that I could use the dragon to like toast areas to clear the mobs and then make my way through. So it was pretty good. Like, I feel like this moment kind of clicked where I was like, oh, this is a gimmick fight. I have to like find a way to kill it. And it was even more obvious when the wyvern was not moving and was just shooting fire. I was like, oh, this is probably something I have to run around until I found a weak point, and then we exploit it. And that's exactly what it was. So I made my way around the keep. I was killing mobs. Sometimes they were killing me, but you know. Oh no, come on. And eventually I made it to the top where it's like clear that you can jump right onto its head. And I just like took my lunge and messed up and completely missed and died. And then I had to do it all over again. And finally I slayed it in 1 hit, which a lot of people I saw in the chat were saying they did not like this kind of boss fight. Personally, I did like it. It changes up the formula a bit. It's more about an environmental boss than a like one-on-one boss, which I'm okay with. And it's all about like, yeah, just dodging this massive boss while fighting the mobs and like making your way around the castle. I like that stuff. And it's a nice breath of fresh air from the usual, oh my God, I got to roll this way, and not get hit. After that, I just continued exploring, making my way to the top of the peak, seeing some cool dragons, mobs and stuff. I'll talk about the mobs later because I kind of had my moment of how this clicked to play Dark Souls 3. But anyways, I made it to the top to a huge bell, which was very ominous, and everybody's like, ring the bell, ring the bell. There was a bonfire right next to it, so I was very happy to do so. So I ring the bell, and like a storm starts. I was like, oh man, like I'm clearly in an optional area. This is super like doom and gloom. What is going to happen here? And so I walk through the white wall, and we're on a bunch of clouds, and there's like this dude who just flies in on a dragon, and it's called what's it called? The King of the Storm. I was like, all right, this looks tough. And it wasn't too bad. Like, I died a lot because I was figuring out how to move it, or how to move around this boss. The hardest things, at least with the King of the Storm, was the fact that there's like no shadow on the clouds. So I had a lot of problems with my depth perception, and the camera was a huge issue because I didn't realize at first there was a difference between targeting the flying creature or the guy on the flying creature. And depending on what it's doing, you want to target one of the two, but one of them is not good. I forget which one. So learning that, you know, fighting with the camera, fighting with the depth perception, that was a problem. And then the third one was I was trying to do my butt strategy where I just like stick to the butt, and then it would fly above me and just like launch a bunch of fire that was really hard to dodge. I'm like, okay, this ain't the way. So I went more into the Monster Hunter dance. And I was like, all right, it's doing like it's Breath of Fire this way. We roll through here. We smack, the Velkhana, the typical Velkhana move. And then the guy like swings. I go through the swing and then smack. That fight, the King of the Storm, was a really good fight. But of course, this game has already taught me that at this point, there's always a phase 2. And I was like, all right, what is the bullshit of phase 2? And so the king of the bird thing dies. And then the guy comes out. I'm like, of course, I got to fight the guy. But I was shocked to see that this is the Nameless King. So I had heard of the Nameless King before I got into Dark Souls. Like, I had heard legends of this terrifying boss called the Nameless King. So I knew that there was such a boss that existed. I didn't know in what context he existed in the Dark Souls universe. As far as I knew, I thought it was going to be the final boss of the game. So to see him here as the King of the Storm in an optional area, I was like, oh, okay, this is like probably the optional, like, hardest boss of the game, DLC excluded, because I'm told the DLC is harder than the Nameless King based on a poll I made on Twitter. So I took one swing at him and he just destroyed me. I was like, I've got so many other things to do. I'm going to come back. I'm not ready to commit like a whole stream to just bash my head against this thing. So it's part of my pledge. I got to fight him. But it's going to take a lot of patience, a lot of careful, like, okay, we rolling now. Okay, what are his swings? And then just notch away at him. It's going to take, I'm going to die a lot. And it's going to take a lot of practice to finally beat him. But the King of the Storm, outside of the whole camera thing, it was a fun fight. And I really hope that the Nameless King follows that. All right, so that is one boss down. And then the other one, I just took a peek. So after that, I had 2 areas left. I was told that there was one more optional boss in the Consume King's Garden. So I went back there and I had completely forgotten about that area because the last time I killed Ocelot and then I saw I got the what is it called? The gesture, which got me to Arc Dragon Peak. So I went back because I remember that there was a wall that I could go through and I didn't explore because it was all dark in there. I was like, I'm not doing dark spaces. So I went back there and I was like, why does this place look so familiar? I'm like, wait, I've seen this like character placement here. I've seen these maps. And then I was like, this looks oddly familiar, like the beginning of the game. And of course, for some reason, that's what it is. It's like a darker version of the beginning of the game. So I'm like, oh, what's going to be in the place where I fought my first boss in this game? And lo and behold, I came across a boss called Champion Gundyr. And I was so excited for this fight because I really liked the first boss of this game. And I'm like, all right, let's go. Like, you're probably just going to be a lot harder. But I'm ready for it. And I love these like big guys and the big wind up with the swings. I'm like, oh, I can roll right through your swing. What caught me off guard is I'm like, all right, where's the butt? I'm going to stick to the butt because that's where I do all my damage. So I was on his butt and then bam, he just kicks me out of the way. I was like, wait a minute, knights don't kick. So that caught me off guard. I was getting juggled with the like kick up and then kick away, and then he just charges at me. So I almost had him on my first attempt, but the kicks really threw me off. And that tank, I'm going to call him a tank, he is super aggressive. So the aggression and my little bit of panic rolling cost me a few matches, but I think I got him on the second try and I was having a good time with him. Like, he was hitting me a few times, but it was so like intense and scary. I was kind of laughing and just because I knew how to fight it. It was just a matter of getting comfortable with the fear, which is something that you got to do with a lot of these bosses. Like, some of them are so intimidating, so aggressive, but as a player, you know how to, like, it's just timing and dodging, and it's about getting comfortable with that fear, and that does not come easy. So that is the biggest challenge of Dark Souls, is coming to sense, getting comfortable with your fear, and then playing with that fear clearly there, but you're just like, I'm going to ignore it, and I'm just going to do my rolls, and I'm going to do my slashing. So Champion Gundyr fell. I think I got a new ring from him, which gave me, it's like a locked, I don't know. It's a ring that has 3-4 boosts on it. So that's my new ring. I love that thing. And then I only had one place left to go, which was the Grand Archives. And this place was a little bit grindy. So many more mobs. And this is where I think I started playing this way in the last stream, but it's all about picking and choosing which mobs to kill and which ones to run through. And that became even more obvious at the top of the Grand Archives, right before the princes, the 2 princes. So this part was just really kind of like, I got killed quite a few times just trying to figure out my way around the Grand Archives. There's not much to say outside of, yeah, some of the mobs were fun. Some of them ganked me, and I just had to figure out their placement, find my shortcuts so that I didn't have to run through everything, and just slowly progress. It was actually quite comfortable. I made it to the rooftop, and I actually saw like, okay, this is clearly where the boss is. There's like this big like temple. And then I looked behind and there was like a tower. I was like, oh, what's in that tower? Let's go see that first. And I'm glad I did, because that's where I found the hunter's ring, which gives +5 dexterity. So I think I had like a milk ring or something. It gave me +3 dexterity. I'm like, nah, give me the hunter's ring. I'm a hunter. And then there was like all these like angel knights all around it. I was like, no, I'm not fighting this. I am jumping and I am running, because that is the Dark Souls way. Why fight things when you can run away? And also, this is kind of highlighted in an anime I'm watching called JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. If there's one thing you learn from part 2 is that JoJo does not need to fight every big thing. Running away is a valid strategy, and I have to remember that. So thank you, Joseph Joestar, for teaching me the ways to win at Dark Souls. So made my way. Okay, yeah, so there's a bridge and a path that you go up the stairs, and at first I was like, oh, I'm like taking on like the Lothric army or whatever. Okay, we're gonna start killing everyone. And then like there was waves of knights and archers coming. I'm like, you know what? This looks really hard. This looks like I'm gonna die a lot. Like, it's gonna be frustrating. How about we just run through it, hope that there's a bonfire, and then just focus on that and getting to the boss. So I did that. There was like a shortcut that went to a bonfire, and my first encounter with the Lorien Elder Prince went pretty well. I killed him on my first go, and then Lothric, the younger prince, gets on him, and he's like, all right, let's go again. I was like, oh, of course, phase 2. And I was panicking a lot more because it was a little bit more intense. I killed Lorien again, and that's when I learned Lothric heals him. I was like, no, don't you heal. And I was like bashing on him, and I was one hit away from killing Lothric, and then I panicked and I died. And that was the closest I would be to killing the twin princes until an hour later. Like, that fight was pretty hard. Specifically the two princes ganging up on me. The Lorien Elder Prince fight, I got so comfortable with that. At one point, I was actually going through it without getting any damage. I was able to kill him pretty easily, but it's when they would combine that there was just so much stuff coming at me. Like, he would throw magic at me that I'd have to dodge, but then while I'm dealing with that, the other dude would teleport and like come in with a big sword on me. All of that stuff was like just really tough to deal with, because you're basically dealing with 2 attacks despite you have 1 target to deal with. So I was trying to use the pillars to try to like have the magic attack get blocked by the pillar, so I could then focus on the melee user that came to me. And through trial and error and a lot of perseverance and rolling and sticking to the butt, I finally killed both of them in just like, it was a slog. It was very difficult to kill them, but I finally did it. And at the end, like, I was getting angry, but it was still a good fight. I was still enjoying this fight. Like, I've been enjoying a lot of I have to say, I've been enjoying the fights of Dark Souls 3 compared to Dark Souls 1. Just overall, I much prefer how the bosses are mechanically. And now that I know kind of the way to fight them, which is roll, stick to the butt, slash, it's just a good time. It's about like learning the rhythm, the tempo, and once it clicks, it's fun. Then after that, I had my final Lord of Cinder, so I went back to the seas, and I was like, all right, what are we doing here? Like, I guess we're going to go see what the final boss is looking like, because I know I got the Nameless King, and what's the final boss? So made it to the Soul of Cinder. I was like, okay, it was the end of the stream, so I'm like, let's give it a shot. Beat the Soul of Cinder's like first health bar, and then of course he gets like souped up and the music changes. I was like, oh man, now what? His whole health bar recharges. I was like, of course it's 2 phases. Why has it got to be 2 phases? His first phase was hard enough, although was it really hard? Because I did kill it in the first go. I think I always get like antsy and scared with the second phases, and that's what screws me up, because I barely did any damage on the second one. He was just like comboing me to death. And I was like, oh my God, this is impossible. How am I ever going to overcome this? But when I was rewatching the VOD to make like this impression video, I was noticing how like actually kind of predictable his moves are. And I was just, I think maybe too caught up in my head, because I was like, why was I rolling so early or so late? Like, when I was watching my gameplay after, I was like, this is quite doable. Why was I playing so bad? So I hear that the Soul of Cinder and Nameless King are the 2 hardest bosses in the game, the base game. So my next stream is me attempting to finish my pledge by killing these 2 hard bosses. I don't think it's going to be easy. I think it's going to be a struggle. I'm going to, I think, attempt the Nameless King first, and then I'm going to get the DLC before finishing off the Soul of Cinder. Now, regarding the DLC, a lot of you have asked me to do it, and I have to be honest with you, I am a little bit terrified of it because I hear the DLC is only harder, and that's starting to get out of my comfort zone. So I am not going to pledge the DLC for my own sanity. I still have my pledge to finish. I still have to kill the Nameless King and the Soul of Cinder, which to me is like, ugh, that's going to be tough. But I will go in and take a look at all the DLC bosses. I will attempt to kill them all, but I will not pledge. So if at any point I'm just tired of this game and I just want to move on, I will, because I'm not, Dark Souls 1, I already shared how it didn't click with me. Dark Souls 3, I am enjoying it more than Dark Souls 1, but I am not in love with this game. It's not a game that I necessarily want more of. It's a game that I want to proudly say I've completed and move on. It's not a game I want to stick around with. So going into the DLC and really doing everything in there, I'm curious, but I don't want to commit to it. So we'll see what the DLC has to offer. I hear that there's a lot of cool lore stuff, a lot of cool bosses. So I look forward to seeing what's there. So next stream, hard bosses. That's all there's left. Just a lot of hard bosses to kill and to see. So join me on twitch.tv/HeyJOfficial if you want to check out any of that. And hopefully I will be completing my pledge soon. And then we're going to be heading to a whole new journal. Who knows what it is. So I'll see you on the next stream or on the next journal. And until next time, Classy Crew, keep it classy.
Due to Jason's situation on the last stream, this video will have no comedy in it.
Okay, I came up with my own Dark Souls joke, but the Twitch chat didn't appreciate it, neither did my Twitter. So you are my last hope, YouTube, to show me that you have a sense of humor. All right, here's the joke. It's a dad joke. What is the Unkindled One's favorite dinner? Dinner rolls. Because he likes to roll.
See? No comedy at all.
Welcome back, Classic Crew, to another Dark Souls journal. It's not the last one, fortunately or fortunately, as I have failed my pledge once again. Last time I left you with 2 bosses left to kill, and today I leave you with 1 boss left to kill. The Nameless King is my official big Dark Souls wall. I've never been walled on a boss in Dark Souls that's gone over 2 streams, and I hope it doesn't go beyond that. But Nameless King has walled me. And I'm gonna have to keep trying. I was very close to beating him though this past week. I had 2 hits left on him, and he was dead. He would have been done. He would have been a score, just a score on my scorecard. But unfortunately, I wasn't good enough to land those 2 hits, and he killed me. So this past week, before we got into the Nameless King shuffle, someone said, "Oh, there's a little mini boss nearby you should try out who has the full Havel armor." So I fought him. It was a very good little warm-up, and then I went after the Nameless King with proper intent to kill him. So last stream, the one before for the last journal, I had only really gotten to the Nameless King phase, saw it once, and I was like, nope, we're gonna come back to this later. Now I was going in, I was like, all right, I gotta learn the Nameless King's pattern, gotta learn what makes him tick, and I was getting much better at rolling and learning the tempo to get through his attacks and learning what his attack moves are. So I was bashing my head on that boss for a good hour, and I was starting to get him more consistently to his half health when he starts pulling out his electric attacks, and because I didn't know how to deal with those, I was dying a lot. I was also dying a lot to his Drake or whatever it's called, just because I needed to remember how to play it, and the camera was giving me issues. I was having depth perception issues, and anyways, I'm gonna get back to that because Nameless King, I made it to Nameless King half health, and then I just decided, you know what, let's go try taking on the Soul of Cinder to see if I can fare better that. Because last journal I shared how when I was watching the VOD, I was like, this boss doesn't look that hard. I feel I can go into it. I was just a little bit overwhelmed by the emotions or just fear, whatever it was. So I went back to Soul of Cinder, and going from Nameless King, fighting Nameless King for an hour, and then going to Soul of Cinder, he moves so slow. I was like, oh, there's the wind up. I roll through that, and I can dodge. And when he would hit me, my health was so not punishing. Like Nameless King, it's pretty much once he hits you once, you're stunned, and then he finishes you off. Soul of Cinder doesn't hit you so hard that you have time to recover and basically recover from your mistake. So I died a few times to Soul of Cinder simply because he was pulling out a lot of new moves that I wasn't expecting sometimes. I was like, oh, what's this move? What's that move? But once I got comfortable with his moveset, which was about 2 or 3 deaths, I was able to kill Soul of Cinder fairly comfortably. And then, and it was a fun fight. I have to say Soul of Cinder, and I also have to say Nameless King is a fun fight too. I do enjoy both, even if I have not killed Nameless King yet. When I was getting the tempo right and like I'm dodging through his moves and like slash on him, dodge, slash, like once you're getting that beat and that rhythm, oh, it feels so good and so rewarding. It really does remind me of the Velkhana fight from the Arc-Tempered Velkhana fight from Monster Hunter World Iceborne, which a lot of you have said would be a similar tempo, and I agree, it is. So the Soul of Cinder has died, and the Touch the Darkness lady shows up, and everybody's like, don't kill her, don't kill her. And I was like, well, what's going to happen? And I think, yeah, I touched the fire, and she's like, oh, a fire. She's about to touch it. I'm like, what am I doing? And then things are getting dim. I'm like, oh no, it's getting dark. Is she putting out the fire? Should I kill her? If I kill her, is this how we keep the flame going? And I was so tempted to just slash her, and people are like, don't you dare kill her. And I was like, should I not? And they're like, the good ending is if you don't kill her. And then everything went dark, and she's like, there, now we're in the darkness together. And this is where I had my controversial take of saying, is the Age of Darkness really that bad? And the whole chat's like, yes, the Age of Fire is a bad thing. We all want the Age of Darkness. Because they were saying because it was, the Age of Fire was brought about by Gwen. Gwen, probably. And I was like, well, was Gwen really so bad? I mean, at least we're all kind of sort of alive in the Age of Fire. I mean, we can actually see things. We can see the beautiful architecture. There are travels to be had and NPCs to be wandered and monsters to be fought. At least the Age of Fire has something versus the Age of Darkness has literally nothing to offer. There's nothing to see, and somehow that is the good ending. Now, I've heard arguments that, well, the Age of Fire enslaved humanity and that everybody's a zombie, but I'm like, at least you got something, and versus the Age of Darkness, you have nothing. Now, Devil's Advocate, I hear that the Age of Darkness brings about the Age of Humanity, but that's not really explained other than like a little moment where I think the Oracle or whatever, the Firekeeper says, oh, I see like little dancing flames in the future. So, okay, if the Age of Darkness brings back the Age of Humanity where the humans are there without the gods, sure, that's the good ending. But the way that this game presents it to the player, I'm not a big fan of the Age of Darkness because it's just basically, oh, the bonfire that you love and cherish so much, we're just going to put it out and everything's dark, roll credits. And once again, that is very unsatisfying. It felt like the exact same ending to Dark Souls 1, except there was a little bit more because in Dark Souls 1, you touch the bonfire as usual and they just go like, do you want to light it? And I was like, yeah, I want to light it. And then they were like, roll credits, start the game again. I was like, what happened? At least this time you have a bit of a cutscene. You're not quite sure what's going on, but if you play Dark Souls 1, you know. So I kind of knew the Age of Darkness was coming when things were dimming, but I thought there'd be like a cue or something to let me have a decision on what to do. So not a big fan of the story of Dark Souls 3 once again. Now, I'm probably going to have to watch a lot of lore, but before I do that, I have downloaded the DLC and I am working my way through it. So we'll see how far I get through the DLC and then I will do the lore. So while the Nameless King is there, I'm going to keep wandering in the DLC. Because after Soul of Cinder, so I made it through the credits. And by the way, a lot of people didn't seem to know this, but in Dark Souls 3, even if you go through the credits, at the end, the game asks, do you want New Game Plus or do you want to keep playing? So it's not like Dark Souls 1 where you get yeeted back to the beginning in New Game Plus regardless of what you want. So Dark Souls 3 is much more player friendly to give you the choice. And even if you go back to playing, at any point you can go to your Firelink Shrine bonfire and you can select New Game Plus from there at any moment. So now you all know. Public service announcement. So after Soul of Cinder was dead, I was like, well, that went down too fast. I don't want to go back to the Nameless King and get pounded for another 2 hours. So let's go see what the DLC is about. So I think the first one is the painting of Ariel or something. It's not that, but you go into a painting and there are 2 bosses in the first DLC. So I went out to do that and it's like this really beautiful snow-covered landscape, which it's just so beautiful. I don't think I've seen snow landscapes in Dark Souls yet. And well, I mean, all the landscapes in Dark Souls 3 are just beautiful. So like seeing this was just wonderful to like walk around and see everything. There were knights kind of walking around that I had to pick a fight with those and like they would go down in 2 hits. I was like, oh, these mobs are also good because I was kind of scared a common theme in this Dark Souls journey, because everybody was saying the DLC is on par with like Nameless King. Well, they said the bosses, and they said the mobs were kind of a pain. So I was like, oh shoot, this is going to be a struggle. So when I found my first mob to be quite manageable, I was like, oh, not so bad. So I keep going. There's a shiny in the snows. I'm like, okay, let's pick up the shiny, and then everything collapses, and I fall, and I'm surrounded by all these wolves. I was like, oh no. So I start killing one wolf. I'm like, oh, these go down easy. It's okay. But then they keep howling. I was like, oh, don't tell me they summon wolves when they howl. And I just kept like slashing wolves, and more kept coming. I was like, oh, this just doesn't end. So I started running, and then there was like an alpha wolf that's like super mega wolf. I was like, oh, come on. So I run the other way, and then there's a mob of soldiers, and the wolves are coming, and the alpha wolf. And then I'm just like, you know what? I'm just going to die right here. So it took me a while to figure out what path to go to not have to deal with that. And I eventually made it down like, it was a bridge. I made it through this bridge. And earlier in one of my earlier journals, I saw a bridge. And I was like, oh, I wish I could cut this. And I tried cutting at the end of the bridge to like make it fall behind me so the mobs couldn't follow. And it didn't cut there. And I thought you couldn't cut. And then everyone taught me you can cut on the bridge. So this was a very similar bridge. I'm like, I bet you can cut this. So let's make it to the other end and we'll cut at the last moment. I'm like, here I go. I'm going to cut my drop, whatever it's called, my bridge, so that rope bridge, so that just for the funsies, because I knew you could do it. So I bash R1 and my sword bounces off the rope, launching my character into the air, off the bridge, down the ground. And I died. I'm like, is this an intentional troll or did I just find a bug? Anyways, I'm pretty sure it was a bug, but man, the timing of that was just hilarious. And after that, we made it into a church, and everybody, there was like a guard out there. He was talking to me about a woman inside who I had heard that name. I forget the name right now. I didn't write it down. And I heard that name. I think she is a boss because it starts with an F, Frida or something, Freed. But she didn't seem too harmless. She just kind of sat there and being like, get out of my painting. I was like, all right, after I'm done killing you later. So I kept exploring. There wasn't much to do here. I went to the bottom, and then the chat kind of guided me. Oh, I played around with some ice crabs. By playing around, I mean I ran through them because I'm not messing with ice crabs. And then there were ice trees, which were pretty cool. I killed those pretty fast. And then I made it to a boss, thanks to chat, which was the Champion's Gravetender. And this fight gave me a little bit of vibes from Artorias from Dark Souls 1, simply because there's a grave and there's a big wolf that shows up eventually. So this fight, I was like, oh, this is weird. It's like an NPC fight, but it's a boss fight. Oh, that's kind of disappointing. That's not what I was expecting. So I kill all his little wolves. I've still got my my wind blades or whatever. And he's got a sword and shield, and I'm like trying to knock the shield off, and he just will not accept. So I learned when he jumps, I can roll into his stab, and that's when I can kill him. But then it's a big, massive wolf comes in, and this thing is just a train. Like, it just launches its body at you, and then it like ice breaths you. It was a pain to fight. So I kept trying and dying and failing, and it was really annoying because my two little dinky swords were just not working for this fight. So I'm like, is it time to bring out the retired, I think it was the Farron Greatsword that I used to use in certain parts. People are like, yeah, the Greatsword will like open up the shield. You can actually like parry or remove the shield. So I'm like, all right, let's go back to the Firelink. We pulled out the old Farron Greatsword. I had all of the items now to level this up to +5. So we have a max Farron Greatsword. I'm like, oh, let's see how much damage this does. So I do my like Beyblade win and I kill all the wolves in like one hit. I was like, oh, this is fantastic. And then I'm like, all right, sword and shield user, let's go. And then I just like Beyblade, brr, brr, brr. And then the Great Wolf, I'm like, all right, it's time to Beyblade you. And then he's just, nope. And then I died. So it required a little bit of finesse and relearning how to use the Farron Greatsword. But after a few attempts, everything died. It was so much more easy to kill the wolves and the Champion's Gravetender. It was just the big wolf that required a little bit more. Okay, dodge. Okay, this is the time to kill him. So that little side journey in the DLC taught me the importance of changing your weapon for the proper strategy. And so at this point, I don't know where the other boss is at this time. And I'm not sure why I decided to go to Nameless King, but for some reason we decided, let's try the Farron Greatsword on the Nameless King and see how I fare with that. And I ended up spending the rest of the stream on him. So against the Wyvern, the Greatsword was actually quite good, as long as you don't like crazy Beyblade like I was attempting to do. It kills him so much faster that I started to really like going with the Farron Greatsword against the Wyvern of Storm, or whatever it's called. But then the Nameless King, the swing of my Greatsword is so slow and the window to hack at him and then dodge is so short. The timing was a lot harder to pull off, like getting the greatsword. And people were like, oh, you have to roll and stab. But then I wasn't able to predict the Nameless King would do 2 swings or 3 swings on his attacks. And if I tried to roll and poke after the second swing, but he had a third attack coming, I would always get messed up. So after a few attempts, the Farron Greatsword wasn't working for me for Nameless King, but it was like really good for helping me get rid of his dragon nice and early. I know I'm calling it Drake, Wyvern, Dragon, whatever. Pick your poison. So I changed my armor loadout because I was like, all right, let's keep the Greatsword and the 2 swords as different loadouts. And to keep my quick rolls, I had to get rid of my helmet. I'm like, doesn't matter. I get hit 2-3 times, I'm dead anyways. Armor isn't that important. So now what I have this new strategy where I go in with the Farron Greatsword to take out the Wyvern. Once he's done, I swap out to my Twin Blades, and that's what I go for the Nameless King, just because it really feels satisfying. The rolls, the whoosh whoosh, so I use L2 for every attack, and I just do 1 attack between my rolls. So I roll, swoosh, roll, swoosh, roll, swoosh, and it's such a good dance. And the only problem right now is just my timing. I know his attacks, I know when to do things, but honestly, if you get the timing off just a little bit, he kills me and just destroys me. So I know I'm going to get him sooner or later. And my personal stamina was actually quite used up by last stream. I was actually getting tired and I was getting sloppier. So I'm really hoping that the next stream I will go in fresh and I should be able to kill him after a few attempts. It's just keeping that stamina up because the Nameless King has so much HP that you have to keep that level of attention and execution pretty high compared to the other Dark Souls boss. But once I get it, it's going to be so good. Oh, and I have to keep my adrenaline low so that I don't get all jittery. So all of that together, it's going to happen eventually. I just got to keep at it. And now I've got maybe 1 or 2 streams. I'm going to go through the DLC. I am not pledging those bosses because I don't want to get stuck on a month worth of hard bosses in Dark Souls. I do want to see what the content has to offer. I want to understand what the community has to say about these bosses. So I've got 5 DLC bosses left to do, as well as Nameless King. Nameless King is part of the pledge. The other 5, I'm going to go pay them a visit, see what they're like. If they are as fun as Nameless King, I'm probably going to end up fighting them over and over until I can actually kill them. So if you want to join any of that, I always stream Dark Souls 3 on Tuesdays. We are getting close to wrapping it up. And then after that, I'm not sure where I'm going to go, but we will go on a new journey together through a whole other game. So I'll see you in the next stream, the next video, or wherever you find me. And until next time, Classy Crew, keep it classy. One of my favorite things to say on this channel, pledge complete. I've killed all the bosses in Dark Souls 3. Except 2 DLC. Welcome, Classy Crew, to my final Dark Souls journal. I'm pretty sure this is where it's going to end unless for some crazy reason one day I decide I want to do Dark Souls 2. But my pledge is complete, which was to kill all of the base bosses in Dark Souls 3, Nameless King being my final wall, which took me an extra stream to get to, but I've killed him. And I was curious enough with the game and not turned off by it to go through the DLC. And I killed 4 of the 6 bosses, but I've seen all the boss fights. And I finished the final boss fight, which is Slave Knight Gael, I think you pronounce it. And it was so good, like the best boss fight I've ever had in a Dark Souls game. I want to end it on that high note. And I'm going to talk about all the bosses, but I just want to share that's where we're at. So I'm moving on from Dark Souls 3. I don't know what the next pledge is going to be, but my Dark Souls 3 journey has come to an end. I'm going to recap the bosses and I'm going to share my final impressions of Dark Souls 3 because they have changed. Not just Dark Souls 3, of Dark Souls in general, because I ended this game on a high note. I was a lot more comfortable with it. I actually was enjoying myself. So we're going to dissect all that. So let's get started with Nameless King. Last time I was stuck with him, but I was zeroing in on the strategy of taking out his Drake with the Great Sword and then coming in with the dual blades. It was just a matter of practice. Now, what I think was the final click was I discovered you can actually cancel when he charges his electric attack. And it was really his electric attacks, the second phase of his fight, which kind of threw me off, and it was honestly because I was just lacking practice against it. But through more practice, I discovered kind of by accident that when he's doing all of his lightning charges and attacks, like the big hammer, you just got to go behind him. And if you hit him enough time as he's charging, he goes into, he creates an opening, which allows you to do that much more damage on him, making the fight that much shorter. So I pretty much ended it at the beginning of a stream, and it was just so satisfying. The Nameless King, in my books, is just a good fight. At that point, it was probably one of my favorite fights in the game. I was not really frustrated with him. I was frustrated I had to fight his Drake all the time. But when it came to the fight with the Nameless King, it was super fun. And I just had a great time of just learning when to roll and when to hit him and not be so aggressive. Like, it was always that third attack. Sometimes he has 3 attacks. Sometimes he has 2. Being able to gauge if he's going to do the third attack or not was key to winning. Learning when to, heal, that was another thing, because I had to be out of my head enough to be like, all right, now it's time to be aggressive, now it's time to heal. And with the intensity of the Nameless King coming at you all the time, you don't have that much comfort zone to do that. But anyways, yeah, getting behind him, pretty much knocking him on his knees when he's charging his electro attack were the keys for me to defeat him. And after that, I was actually quite interested in learning more about what's left in the game. I remember throughout my journey, a lot of people were talking about the marriage quests, and I was like, actually, it wasn't because of the marriage quests. As you all see in my like intro segment to the streams, there's this artwork that is done of me in some kind of Dark Souls armor, and I really wanted to end the DLC by being in that armor. I was like, where do you get this armor from? And everyone's like, oh, you have to go and finish the NPC quest line with, oh no, I forgot her name, but it's the lady you marry. And I say marry extremely liberal, because marriage in Dark Souls, of course, is not a happy ending. So we do that quest line, and I learn at the end that by marriage, they mean shoving a sword through your bride's corpse's face. I don't understand how that has anything to do with marriage. I don't know if that was a marriage gone wrong. It seemed like everybody was happy with the outcome. But yeah, she was already dead, and I mutilated her face by putting a half-broken sword in it. But who cares? Because I got an awesome piece of armor out of it, and this is how I ended my journey. So it was nice, it's blue, I look like a knight. Was there a cape to it? I don't remember if there's a little bit of a cape to it. There's a little bit of swagger to it. And then we went off into the painting, where it's all snowy and stuff, to go and fight the bosses. So I had already beaten the wolf boss last time. Now I made it all the way to Sister Frida, I believe is how you pronounce her name. And I didn't have much to say in terms of the exploration other than it's a beautiful landscape. The Sister Frida fight, I have heard tales of this fight. So here was my first fight with her. Actually went well. I went in, I was a little bit cautious, and I actually killed her first phase, but I wasn't like overly confident because I knew there was a big guy in the room. I was like, there's probably a phase 2 where the big guy activates. So I used up half my flask, and just through a little bit of luck and talent, I guess, I managed to down her on my first try. So then, of course, the big dude, what's his name? Father Ariandel, he gets mad, and I'm okay with him getting mad and being another boss, but then he revived Sister Frida, and I was like, oh no. And the way that they're presented looked exactly like the Smoo and Ornstein fight, and I'm just like, oh my god, I'm not ready for another fight like this. And there's no pillars in the room. How am I going to do this? So I'm panicking now, and this guy's just coming at me with this big fire, and the sister's just kind of like blasting me with ice. And at first I'm like, all right, I'll just avoid the big dude and I'll focus on her because I killed her once, I can do it again. It wasn't working so well. So then I realized, wait, the big dude might have more openings because he's slamming this big cauldron everywhere. So I started focusing on him and watching the sister's attacks, and I managed to kill that fight too. And I had brought it down. It was on my last flask. I was like very few HP away from dying, but I quickly got my last slash in. Oh, and they share the same health bar, which is great. And I thought for sure I had won, because never in the history of Dark Souls, in my experience, have they ever had a phase 3 bullshit. And this is the mountain of bullshit, the peak bullshit of all the bullshit that you can imagine. They have to put a phase 3 where she merges with the father. And I was so morally crushed and devastated at this. I'm like, no, just no, this isn't fair. And I held my own for a while, but I eventually succumbed. I had 1 amber, which I actually thought to use, which, hey, that's a testament of my growth. But I just got overpowered. Like this, that was on my first try, by the way. So I went again, and I wasn't so lucky the other times. This is a fight where you really have to learn Sister Fried's mechanic, because her mechanics are pretty much the same through all 3 phases. They just amp up a little bit, and I didn't have the patience for it. I'm like, look, I made it to phase 3. That's an accomplishment. I could invest a couple more hours into this and actually overcome it, but I don't see myself getting any satisfaction from it. Like, I was not enjoying the fight, first of all. I was just feeling overwhelmed the whole time. It wasn't like a Nameless King where I was like, I want to take you down. So I decided to leave that. I was on my last stream where I wanted to see all the DLC bosses. So I don't want to waste the stream on Sister Fried. We'll come back to it if we have time, maybe. So I moved on, and we went to the Ring City DLC. And this one was really cool to explore. Did not like the angels in this part. Otherwise, at first I was trying to kill everything and explore, and then I realized they're kind of like endless spawn enemies. And I was starting to get overwhelmed. So I was like, you know what? After a few deaths, we're doing the run strat. And I was just running through everything. I had a few haters in the chat who were like, oh my God, you just run through everything. I'm like, yep, legit strategy. In Dark Souls, you can run. They encourage it, in fact. I beat the game at level 90. And apparently a lot of people in chat were sharing that when they were at the Ring City or at this DLC, they were at about level 120. Now, that is par for the course in my experience. I am usually under-leveled in all games I play because my play style is usually a little bit faster than most people's play style. And I don't say that in a good or a bad way. It's just the fact that I tend to not grind as much. So I tend to be under-leveled. So I was at level 90 through the Ring City DLC. Take that as you will. I don't know if that's an accomplishment. So I made it to this part where there's like 2 angels, you're getting blasted, and then I'm like running on the woods. And it was kind of funny, but also so memorable that I was just, the more I ran, the more stuff I attracted. And there was a big dude, and then I was in a poison swamp, and I'm just like, oh, the bullshit cake is getting more layers. When do I hit a bonfire? And I was panicking and drinking, and then a pyromancer came after me, and angels are still bombing me. I was like, there is no way I will get through this. I was just like almost comically running just to see where it would take me. I'm kind of like frantically exploring as I'm running away from more and more mobs, and I stumbled upon a bonfire. So hey, it worked. And then I was able to later on kind of explore more by killing what I needed to, and chat guiding me as to the areas of interest I should focus on. So after that, I fell into a pit, and here we were introduced to a demon in pain and a demon from below, which was quite intimidating to have 2 massive demons on you. I managed to kill both of them in my first try, and I was feeling like I was growing as a player in Dark Souls, where I'm like, oh, these fights, I'm starting to get the hang of them. I'm understanding how to take them down. But of course, they merge into the Demon Prince, and I was not ready for this. And right after a Sister Frida bullshit, I was like, oh, they're going to do this now. I despise multi-health bar like bosses. Like the Sister Fried business where, oh, here's the health bar, this is the boss. And then you adjust for that in your head of like, okay, well, if I'm doing this much damage, I'm healing this much, I must be doing good. And then like, nope, just kidding. Here's another health bar. And like, all right, now I gotta like, okay, let's redo this. Okay, I'm killing it. And then you die and you kill it and you're like, all right, I succeed. And then they're like, so Demon Prince was like that, but a little bit less bullshitty. But I was still a little morally crushed. So I was like, all right, going in, knowing that there's this. There's probably a phase 3 to this too. So I just, what was the key to this one? I don't think there was much of a key other than learning the attacks. It was a lot easier when I could only focus on Demon Prince. So I think I was focusing on before that, managing the 2 demons was harder, but one is poison, one is fire. And I think killing the fire one is easier because the poison is slower. So once you knock out one, the other one's a bit easier. And I say that very liberally again, because you still have to time your rolls and stuff to dodge their attacks. So it's a matter of learning their attacks, rolling them, doing the damage, rinse and repeat, and they fall. So after that, I was greeted to another lovely assortment of bullshit by entering the Ring City itself, where you are greeted by hundreds of undead archers who killed me many, many, many times. This was a little bit bullshitty until I realized, oh, there's a path to do this. You just have to time it where it's like, I'm behind this wall, they go away, I move forward. And then I eventually learned what the path is. So not too bullshitty. Very typical game design you see in games outside of Dark Souls. So I wandered my way through the city again, mostly dodging and running away from things to progress. Made it to Actually, there was quite a bit of exploration. I met an NPC who I later learned was Patches. That was a very cool quest line because that was a callback to Dark Souls 1, and I actually didn't know it'd be Patches until he kicked me off the ledge, and when they did the setup, I was like, wait, this feels familiar. Where did I see this? And then I like remembered the Dark Souls 1 moment when you get kicked off a ledge. I killed Patches in Dark Souls 1. So to see him again, I was like, I will kill you again. But then people said he disappears and he's a friend after all. So I didn't end up killing him. But I kept exploring, found the secret way to, of course, we encountered Midir, Dark Eater Midir. And I found the optional fight of where he was. Felt really Monster Hunter. I feel like this is the most Monster Hunter fight with Dark Souls mechanics, which is you are the Dark Souls mechanics. The boss is Monster Hunter mechanics. And I was enjoying it for some moments when I realized he's just a massive damage sponge. Like I was chiseling away at his HP and it was not going fast. And he can pretty much kill me in 2 to 3 hits. So I was like, oh, this is a fight that's going to take me a long time. And he was an optional boss. I wasn't really having much fun with it. Again, not like Nameless King. I was mostly staying around him, like underneath him. I was able to dodge some of his attacks. I wasn't great at his tail swipes, but I'm like, okay, I could see myself getting better. And then there's probably a phase 2. And this is going to take me forever just because it takes so long just to knock his HP down. So I'm like, okay, this is a tower boss. I don't want to do this. Let's go see what the rest of the DLC is. So I eventually I almost forgot this boss. In fact, I forgot that it was even a boss. I had to look it up. I was like, what was the 6th DLC boss? But that was Half-Life, Spear of the Church. And this is more of a PvP fight. And I think people said, oh wait, this was a PvP fight. Yeah, this boss is taken from someone online. So it could be me. Like I could be this boss for someone else someday, I guess, somehow. So I don't know if it's fair to really judge it. I got it on my first try, but people said that the character I was fighting wasn't very good. So I don't really take much pride in that. Interesting choice to put a fight, like a boss fight like that. I don't have much comment. I hate PvP in Dark Souls 3. All the fights I've had, a lot of them with a viewer named Nero, I feel like I'm doing my attacks. They don't register on the opponent, and then he smashes me with a greatsword, and I'm just like, how is this fun? I get that there's a certain input lag or something that you have to consider for, which I'm not aware of because the PvP combat is different than the PvE. I just don't like it. It's not satisfying because I'm clearly making contact in the game with you, but you're not taking damage. Why? That's not satisfying. So I really don't like PvP in Dark Souls 3, but I also haven't given it a fair shot. Just the little PvP that was introduced to me gives me no desire to go see what more of it is. Then finally, Slave Knight Gael, which is the final boss. I was ready for some heavy bullshit on this. Like, this was the fight that people had really drummed up as being like one of the best fights. And to me, a Dark Souls best fight means hard fight. It was hard. It was a hard fight, but I have never felt so, like, it was so fun. There was no bullshit. It felt like legit skill. Like, it was all about see his attack, dodge it, hit him, and I wasn't struggling that much. I died a lot of times to him, but at no point did I feel this is bullshit. I was expecting the phases, so there was phase 2 and 3. His health bar doesn't regrow, which that surprised me. I was like, really? We're gonna fight this final boss, and you're not gonna give me 20 health bars to go through? And the more he amplified, he got more intense, but I was just like, oh no, all my training got me ready for this. Just gotta read him, dodge, and hit him. And it was the most simplistic aspect of Dark Souls in the best way. It's just you versus a fast-moving boss having the fast reflexes to dodge his attacks, and then when that right after the opening, you just hit him. And it was a dance. It was a beautiful dance, and I just loved it so much. I was on a high when I killed him. It didn't feel like luck. It felt like skill, and it was the perfect way to end this game. Story-wise, you know, I'm not that much into the Dark Souls lore, so I can't say if it was satisfying that way. But in terms of a fight, this is like a whole head and above the, I don't know, a head and shoulder. What is the expression? It was just really superior. Before that, Nameless King was one of my favorite fights. This surpass Nameless King. It was really good. So now I'm going to be moving on from, so after that, of course, well, I was out of time, but I'm like, I'm not going back to Sister Frida or Madeira after that fight. Those other two fights are just massive, like, damage sponge, and they're going to take me so long to do. I don't want to do them. So I'm okay leaving the Dark Souls series at this point. I know Dark Souls 2 is controversial. I might peek at it one day to understand it. I've heard a lot of bad things about it, but there's a lot of people who will defend it, saying it's not as bad as people say. But I hear it's very different. But I'm okay moving on to the next Soulsborns. You know, I've dabbled in Sekiro at this point. I've dabbled in Bloodborne. 2 experiences I'm eager to get into and I want to go through. And maybe now I'm actually feeling more and more comfortable with with the Dark Souls formula. Elden Ring might be up my alley too, because Dark Souls 3 with those twin blades felt just so good. I could see myself wanting to play that again. And if Elden Ring is as good as what it's setting up to be, I could like that, because I really like the speed of it. I'm not a fan of the great sword mechanic too much. And I genuinely did like exploring in the parts where there weren't like bullshit enemies, where I could take down enemies in 2-3 hits, and you know, they're not mobbing you necessarily, but you can pull 1 or 2 to you and you kind of whittle it down until you have the room to yourself and you explore. I actually like that. What I didn't like about Dark Souls is when I would get into areas that I would be overwhelmed. And I'm okay with areas that I get overwhelmed because I don't know better, and then come back to it and I find ways to whittle it down. But I felt, maybe it was just because I wasn't as mentally prepared, but I felt in Dark Souls 1, there was so many times where the game just punched you while you were down. And maybe it was just, it did it less in Dark Souls 3, or I knew better, or a combination of both. But I was able to appreciate Dark Souls 3 a lot more as a journey. The artwork was better. It was less dark, so I could see more. And the core mechanics shone through a lot more. And the bosses were they were fun. I had a good time with most of them. So I'm really happy I went through Dark Souls 3. I don't love Dark Souls the way I love Monster Hunter, but I like it. It was fun. So I'm happy that I can finally say I like Dark Souls. I never thought I would have said that. And it only took me 2 games and like 4 or 5 months. So here we are. Was it worth it? Could I have done something better? Probably. But at least now I can appreciate this franchise for what it is to some degree. And I'm proud and happy about that. So I'll be back with a new pledge. I don't know what it's going to be. Maybe we'll continue with Soulsborne. Maybe I'll jump over to another franchise. Keep an eye out on the channel for the next video. And until next time, Classy Crew, keep it classy.